Guys, so today I'm going to show how I make a snare. Now I did copy this design from my dad. He made my first snares and then I modified it a little bit to my liking, but it is based on the model he first made for me for snares. So anyways, first thing I do is I cut 62-inch long 3/32 cable, 62 inches. And then what I do is I take a stop. You see I got all my bins set up here with all my stuff. So I take a stop, go on one end here, press this down, and do it twice. Alright, so we got that. That's one end there. Stop goes on one end. Then we're going to take these snare swivels. That's what goes on next. So they go down like this. You just fit that through there. You drop that down your 62 inches there. Alright, your next thing is on the ones I make is the I believe it's called the whammy or the collar support. It's what holds your snare up. I use 9-gauge wire and 3/32 for my snare. So you drop that down next. You don't have to put anything else on so far. And then the next thing you do is you take your lock, and I use the micro lock. Okay, that's what I run. I like them because they're reliable. They're kind of slow, but for Coyote snares, that's what I want, is slow, because they usually hit them running. You guys will see on my videos I've had pretty good success with these locks. Not saying other locks aren't acceptable. These are just what I like. And then we're going to put a deer stop on there. And so we'll run our deer stop on there. Alright, got our lock, our deer stop. Now what we're going to do is, since we ran it downward first, we ran it down through this small hole. Now we're going to come back up through the other one. Alright, and now we're going to put another stop on this end here. Alright, so we'll press this twice on here. Give press. Alright, so now we've got our almost completed snare. Now the deer stop, I then take a hammer and I keep a plate right here, and I haven't got the hammer out yet because I do that last, and I put on my tags on this swivel last. So I will just put it to the 3-inch requirement, and then I'll pound that on, and there's my deer stop. Okay, so that's how I make my snares. That's a completed 62-inch snare, and then it goes like this. My loop does, and that's why I like them long. I like a teardrop, and then my collar will support to my 9-gauge wire, and then I usually put a stick or something with a few twigs off to break up that outline, and that's how I set those on the Coyote trails. So this is how I make my Coyote snare. It's a quick video. Appreciate you guys watching. And here's just a closer look of my equipment. I keep an old snare there for reference, just so I can make it faster. Here's what I use. Not double those. I don't use those. Those are for my earth anchors and pogos. And for the support, this wire's been used about 10 too many times, but usually I just have one loop here like a U, and then you attach this snare tool here. It's got a notch out. You can't see that very well. There's some mud in it, and it goes down right on there. And then you use a driver, or I usually carry a little camp axe, or a trapping axe, I mean, and pound that into the ground until it's firm. And then you pull this out, and your snare support will be standing up, and it'll be drove down. This one's beat up, guys. You can tell it's been used a lot, but you get the concept. And then your snare support connects to right here. You put it in there, and you want to make sure it's firm. And then guys, like I said, I like a slower lock. I'll show you here in just a second. But watch how fast this is with continued pressure. This snare lock requires continued pressure. You see that? It dropped down before I could even move the camera with it. So it's not necessarily a slow lock, it just requires pressure. Okay, so anyways, that's my setup as far as snares and the support, how I judge the height and all that. Here is how I set your typical snare for a Coyote. You see I've got a little brush down there to the bottom left side, and then on this side with the support, I broke up the outline but not done anything too extravagant. Okay, nothing that sends up red flags to those canines when they're coming down the trails. I run a teardrop loop, and typically come season, you guys will notice my snares are duller than that. They're not going to shine that much. Now let's move in here. And here, as we get in close, you can see my 9-gauge wire going down into the ground. Right, and so that's very important. But as you back off, the only thing the canine can see is what looks like just a little brush on the sides. Now I can tell on camera that this snare looks like it's closer to the ground than it is. It looks like it's more set for a fox or a bobcat, but it's actually higher up. I think the mistake a lot of new snaresmen make is the not having it supported well. Overthinking the loop size, right? This isn't as big as a loop as it looks on camera, guys. And also, they don't envision the animal actually coming down the trail. I believe that's a very important part, because a lot of people just say, oh, I like mine 6 inches off the ground, blah, blah, blah. And that works for them, and you may be able to do that down the road. But I believe to start out, it's easier just to envision that animal coming down the trail, right? And another thing to keep in mind is they're not always walking. A lot of times, like a canine, when they come through, even if they're walking, it's kind of fast, okay? So I run a slow lock, though with this snare system, I've caught everything in Iowa except a badger, and we're not allowed to trap like mink and muskrat, you know, smaller stuff. So it's caught everything else in Iowa that I can trap, and it's done well. But I would want a faster snare lock if I was going to use this for like bobcat, otter. I've used it, but I'd prefer a faster lock. But anyways, guys, that's just a quick setup of how I do mine, and I do it the same way every time. So here's the snare setup itself, and you guys are going to laugh at me, but I do things the lazy way. I actually dome my snares by leaving them in the back of the truck for a 3 weeks, and I usually prefer it at least rain once or twice. I believe the smell of the dust off the gravel roads and the rain washing off the oil does the job. It's about as natural scented as you can get for southern Iowa. So that's how I dole down the colors on the shine on my snares and get them smelling like nature. It's just a designated spot either in the yard or the back of the truck for at least a few weeks. So, and that's how my snare design looks. Here's my snare pack. It's got trapper's pliers on one side, cable cutters on the other here on the same pocket. On the other side, there's wire, and then 9-gauge support wire. I need to put a new roll in there. It's almost empty. And then I don't put anything except maybe a couple lures in the pockets on the outside, but I usually don't even do that. Here's my tool for pounding in the 9-gauge wire, and then I put the snares in the center. I can carry this. It's lightweight, and that's what I use. And then also, you see these pliers and cable cutters are set up to go on my belt anytime. So that's my